Gamers, gals, non-binary pals, welcome to Getting Smarter with Stevie Saturdays. A completely original idea, totally not stolen from Matriarch.
Stevie Blunder!
Today's topic, why you will never win or top a real tournament. I'm sorry, but this is just facts. None of you guys will ever top a real tournament. And here's why. What qualifies as a real tournament? In my book, there are tier 2 plus events with high degrees of competition. YCSs and nationals, worlds, you get the idea. So what makes me qualified to talk about what I believe to be the epic gamer sauce for why you will never be good at Yu-Gi-Oh! First of all, I was the top 5 World's Points player in America in 2020. I played a ton of remote duels. Is this not actual World's Points and just like locals point calculations? Yeah, probably, but it's really funny for me to lie about this. 2 regional wins, couple regional tops. I was professionally signed to Team Playmaker from 2019 to 2022. I did receive a budget, so technically I was a paid pro player. I basically ruined every single custom format ever known to man and made a whole $10 one time at a cash tournament. So I'm not like the greatest, obviously. I have no premier tops, I have no whatevers, but I did win $10 one time. So I am basically better than Jesse Cotton in every way. YCS wins, going to Worlds, national champion, $10. Reason number 1 of why you're never gonna win. You do not practice. Playtesting consists of wide varietal practice between all sorts of situations. You have to actually practice for like every scenario. This is what pro players do. Pro players will literally sit down on Dueling Book. They will just like have like 10 hand traps loaded up against them, and they will pretend like they've been hand trapped at every single critical point. Learning how to play through hand traps at choke points, practicing freeform lines and non-linear combo decks, learning how to use like disruptions, practicing against other decks, like just a wide variety of other decks, and learning where the very important choke points are, learning how to be disciplined and understand like game sense in the sense of where you might think your opponent's bluffing, you think that your opponent is going for this play because they don't really have anything else and they're trying to bait, they might be trying to bait you. Playtesting is not drinking beers with the boys. Unfortunately, who would have guessed that like playing Yu-Gi-Oh at like 2 a.m. before the night before the regional is not real playtesting. Reason number 2, your deck sucks. Deck choice, it's pretty important. Obviously, choosing a tier 1 deck will give you a much better statistical odds at an event. Playing a very, very good deck, playing a very strong deck is obviously really good, but it can often be variable. You have luck, extra preparation, a little bit of the spice in your back pocket. Look at Rika, also the rogue decks or sleeper decks that have sort of popped up in and out of the formats and have gotten like pretty good representation, all things considered. However, card choices and ratios do matter immensely to success. It is one thing to play something like Rika Sun Avalon, a deck that's probably not the best deck of the format, but it's still like pretty good. It is a completely different thing to build a bad deck. You could build Sprite poorly, you could build Tier Element poorly. There are a lot of ways to make a good deck, in theory, bad. One of the things is that you do not actually look at the cards in your deck. When you look at like deck building, sometimes you might find yourself just being like, oh, I'm just gonna slot in like 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Imperm, 3 of this. Like it'll be good enough. That's one of the things that like your brain sort of does, just to like sort of autopilot your deck building, when in reality it's probably not like amazing. Look at the start of the format where everyone kind of was like maybe just like loading up on like a ton of hand traps, stuff like Ghost Bell, DD Crow, Ash Blossom, in order to hit like Tier Element, like DD Crow and like Sprite Elf target, stuff like that. Unfortunately, in the vast majority of scenarios, those cards are not good enough, and you don't want to be going 1 for 1. You just kind of want to win the game on the spot. Speaking of auto defaulting, you immediately watch the first YouTube profile you see and you take it as gospel. Everyone's done this. I've done this before. I've done this tons of times. I will just be like, oh, I want to build Skull Tournament. I will just type. First thing that comes up is like a mega capital G video where like someone's playing like Scarlight, Red Dragon, Archfiend, and like Skull Tournament. I'm like, yeah, this is the sauce. Use builds as a skeleton. Do not take builds just like word for word, card for card, and think that it's immediately going to, oh, I built this list, I am automatically going to win. Make adjustments based on your locals meta. Make adjustments based on your budget and what you can realistically afford. Third, you do not study. Do your best to actually study other decks and to learn how to play against them. This sort of ties into point 1. But again, you need to know what other decks are doing and how they function in order to realistically give yourself the best chances of survival against them in a tournament. Reason number 3, you take no accountability. In most games of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or anything really, you are the reason you lost. 99% of the time, you are the reason you took that fat L. Luck is obviously a considerable part of any card game. Sometimes you just generally get sacked. You play optimally, you play as best you can, but to blame all of your losses just getting sacked is irresponsible, and it really stunts your growth as a player. Sometimes you just didn't see a line. Sometimes you should have held a card for next turn to push instead of just like setting it. In most matches, there are, again, like a lot of many minute plays and workarounds you could have done to potentially play on certain cards. Draw 2 or 3 hand traps even, etc. Like one of the big things is like draw phase, Salamangreat Circle. There's a difference between getting sacked and like willingly walking face first into a wall. The tunnel. Learn to analyze your mistakes, look at the matches in your head, ask your opponent like after a loss, be like, do you think there's anything I could have done different? Where did I make mistakes? That sort of deal. Don't be afraid to ask your opponent that. It can only help you. You'll be able to better recognize these scenarios in the future, and when it comes up again, congratulations, you're now better prepared for it, and you probably will come out better on top when it comes to much larger events rather than like, you know, misplaying at a locals. It's like I always say, you misplay at locals so you don't misplay at the YCS. Reason number 4, you lack the Sigma grind set. This is for all my real gamers in chat. If you're going to enter a tournament, and I'm like, you're seriously preparing to like fly across the country, fly to a different country, you have to be looking at tournaments with the intention to win. You should not be looking to just skirt by. Because if you're looking to skirt by, you're going to lose to people who are better prepared than you. You're going to lose to people who are more hungry for that dub than you are. You have to build your deck with the intention of literally having a 100% win rate against everything. One of the big things I genuinely believe in is you should play loose and aggressive in early rounds where you're sort of still feeling out which players are good, which players are bad. You might be against good players, but most players at the early stages, like around rounds 1 to 4, they're pretty average. Most players are going to be like you currently. You're going to be against like the person who's like pretty decent at the game. They know what they're doing. They know what the deck does. They know the combos, but they don't really have that super supreme depth. And if you have that depth, you are going to always come out on top 99% of the time. But again, one of those things in regards to how you should approach these matches is you should not be afraid to overcommit and to try and seal out wins. Early on, you have to get a really good win ratio up to like round 6, 7. Those are the rounds where like those are easiest to win, in my personal opinion. You should not be afraid of just being like, I'm gonna full commit to this board. If they have it, they have it. I just need to play as greedy as possible versus players that are probably statistically not going to make it to future rounds. You need those wins to really act as a buffer for later rounds if you do lose some. Because if you're in like round 8, round 9, or like a 10-round regional, and you're like 8-0 or like 7-0, you could be like, okay, I could afford to lose 1 or 2 in order to still top. That's how you want to be looking at it. You want to be sure to clear a path as early as possible, just so that like at the later stage, you can just kick back, relax. Do not give into the I just want to go home mindset. Tournaments are long. Like anyone who's actually played like an IRL tournament, whether it's a regional, anything, they will tell you how draining tournaments can be. Later rounds are very tiring. So be sure to eat, drink, stay hydrated, do your best to actually like keep yourself you know, active and to like just fight through to the end. Do not ever want to let your opponent see you sweat, because if they're seeing you sweat, they're gonna put the pressure on. Last tip: you're not having fun. This should be like a sad face. See, look, it's the capital E colon. Genuinely, Yu-Gi-Oh is a game where we intend to have fun when we enter it. We do not want to look at Yu-Gi-Oh as a stressor. Anyone who's in any field can tell you, if you're at a job or doing something that you love, but you're stressed out about it because your livelihood or anything or whatever is literally on the line, that is not a good mindset to be looking at. You do not want to be in a tournament scenario, or you do not want to get into your head where you're just super stressing out. You're like, oh my god, I'm X2 after round 4. If I lose any of the next 6 rounds, I'm gonna lose, blah, 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 blah. That is like the worst thing that you could do for your psyche, and you will lose. You're not gonna lose because of your opponent. You're just gonna lose to yourself, and you're probably just gonna misplay. You want to enter the tournament, obviously, with a positive mindset. If you win, we win. If you don't, know that you genuinely did your best, considering you did reasons 1 through 4 earlier. Don't get hung up about losses. Like, obviously, getting sacked sucks. Breaking sucks. Whatever. Get mad for like 5 minutes. Get mad at like your friends. Just be like, oh my god, I got sacked, blah, blah, blah. Get all the salt out, and then just be like, all right, it happened. There's nothing you could do now. Like, we will just do our best moving forward. That's generally what I do. I'll get like really mad for 5 minutes, and I'll just like completely forget about it moving forward. Obviously, people have like other ways they want to do it. Maybe people just want to like do some, like, I don't know, just play like Among Us, take a piss, whatever. Again, we're playing Yu-Gi-Oh because it's fun, not because we want to make life harder for us. We don't want to ruin our day. We don't want to ruin our fun and passion for the game by just forcing ourselves to repeatedly like play hyper competitive Yu-Gi-Oh and just get stressed out every single time we see like a negate or like a hand trap, you know? We don't want to like get like a Pavlov's dog to just like having a brain aneurysm every time we look at like Sprite Blue effect, you know? And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. YouTube Frogs, if you want to catch these sessions live of Getting Smarter with Stevie, Usually it's going to be on Saturdays or Sundays whenever I wake up and feel like making a PowerPoint. Watching live on twitch.tv/Stevie Blunder. And that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. See ya.